Hello and welcome to the Relax, It's Retirement podcast with your host, Josh Leonard, where we talk about transitioning into retirement with intent. I'm Wendy McConnell. We also have Pete Belcastro along with us today because he is one of our recurring co-hosts at this point.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
You've become a staple.
There you go. It'll be easier for you to get that out too. You know, you'll believe it eventually. You know,
I believe it. I wasn't really prepared to do that, so I'm like at the last minute, I'm like, I want to make sure I'm saying his name. There we go. There we go.
You got
all
it.
Right. So, how's everybody doing today?
Oh, awesome here. Beautiful day. You know.
And how about you, host?
Beautiful. It's, believe it or not, here it is now swimming weather here in Southwest Michigan. So we had a weekend at the beach, so I'll take it, you know?
Very nice. We are getting a little bit of a cold snap here and around the Jersey Shore area, but hopefully it's going to warm up this week. So the fingers crossed. 7 on the SPF scale today for the sun. So that's positive, right?
You got to put that sunscreen on.
I know.
It.
Exactly. Especially on your noggin, right, Pete?
I felt the pain the other day.
Oh.
A few weeks ago, they told me that the sun was the same level it was in late August. So watch out for sunburn. But unfortunately, that was after I already had sunburn. So
yeah, gotta be sun safety person. You got to be serious about it. So what are we talking about today, guys?
Well, we're going to talk about FOMO, fear of missing out. So, sometimes maybe we want that nice base layer tan so we don't put sunblock on early in the season, and then we turn into a lobster and lose all of our skin. So
I thought it was just Gen Xers that did that.
Oh, no, I'm guilty of it every spring. I get burnt once, and then I'm like, all right.
That doesn't work anymore. I get burned every time I go out now if I don't have enough sunscreen on. I think that maybe that ozone thing that they used to talk about, I think that might be real.
It's starting to hurt more, that's for sure.
Right. Okay, sorry, I got off track again. I'm bad, Wendy. All right, please, Josh, continue.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about FOMO today. So Pete had a recently released article discussing this topic in more detail, so we'll link that in the show notes, but we thought we'd come on. So Pete was the writer of it, so I'll switch it over to Pete here. What do we know about FOMO?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all get that sometimes, whether it's, you look across your neighbor getting ready to go on vacation or you just get back from doing something. You're like, I'm exhausted. Somebody said, hey, we're going to go out and get ice cream now. And you're like, oh, fine, I'll force myself. But really, a lot of, the reason why I thought the topic was relevant is that every time, maybe not every time that there's a lottery drawing, but it seems like more often than not, we're seeing these ridiculous lottery numbers. Like we're talking about, those mega millions or whatever it is being in the billions, we're like, oh my gosh, that just seems ridiculous, and it seems more and more consistent that we don't even pay attention till the lottery is like $1 billion. So usually if it was a 500 million, everybody would be, lines around the block. And there's also, there was a whole bunch of these meme stocks. I don't know if you remember, I think it was back at 2021, whenever these meme stocks first, kind of came out. And the big one was, that GameStop, which, we saw from, it just shot up drastically and went back down, and that just everybody kind of piled in. And I started seeing all these just indicators that really people were looking for that get rich quick scheme. They were looking for that. They thought they were missing out on something by not buying into this GameStop. And really it was, in most of those people, those, I guess, day-to-day, you and me investors, they bought in at the wrong time and really lost a lot of money. And so I really wanted to get that out there that, hey, what is is there a correlation between, retiring confidently and FOMO? And I did think that I found one, and it's a negative correlation, that you really can't, have this idea of retiring confidently or and still want to jump on every single hot topic that comes out.
Yeah, I think we consistently see this trend. So the meme stocks were a big one that recently perked up again, Pete.
That's right.
And I think the other one, it was NFTs a couple of years ago, were the next thing that's going to, change everything. They're worth $1 billion. You hear all these celebrities buying. The Bored Apes were one of the popular ones. And then shortly thereafter, they're worthless. And I think, okay, if you're really, really wealthy and you can buy something for, $100,000 and it turns into nothing, you're okay. But for the average people preparing for retirement, don't be liquidating your 401k to be buying Bored Apes or, whatever the latest craze is.
And that's it. And I mean, Josh is right. I mean, this is, I was writing and thinking about things that happened, a year ago, 2 years ago. I mean, it was still current, today, because instead of GameStop, there was AMC, the theaters, they were in the headlines. And then just recently as last week, they came back into the headlines. So right whenever, the article that we were talking about was coming out, we saw GameStop shoot up over 100%. And then we saw AMD shoot up, and I think that they were up close to 300%. This is just last week.
Wait, AMC or AMD?
AMC.
The movie theater.
Yes, the movie theater. Yeah, so that's another meme stock. Yeah, not the chip company or the computer company, but so people were lashing onto these stocks, and both GameStop and AMC shot up like over 300%. Does that get your attention, Wendy?
It does.
Would you rather? And so I think it got a lot of people's attention, and unfortunately, guess what? It's not up 300% again. It's down to almost where it was. Well, we're still seeing some residual from that, and it's actually up 20 plus percent at this point. But still, in 1 week for us to see that type of movement, you can kind of see it's not just it's not just people calculating these things. These are retail investors. These are people that are sitting on the sidelines that says, "My gosh, I've been killing myself here. It'd be nice to get something for free, 100%, return, 200, 300% return. I need that, so it's something that's really relevant, to what's going on. So that's kind of the mindset of what people are thinking.
Yeah. I think it's a natural conflict that we all have, right? Like we want to get to the end destination quickly and easily. So we see these things that look like the easy path out, right? It's the silver bullet. Put all my money in GameStop, and then I can retire in 2 weeks because it's shooting up 100% a day or whatever. That's not really a sustainable plan. Much like everything else we do in life, right? You don't raise your children in one day by saying don't do this, and then they forever listen, right? It's learned over time, and you refine, and you build over time. But we wish that it was easier, right? And the allure of it being easier and the tempting stories of it being easy, quote unquote, is appealing. I think, unfortunately, many times the people that get hurt the most by this are the people least able to sustain the hurt as well.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about, it's something that there's no quick fix for retirement, for planning. It's not like there's no liposuction for retirement, right? You got to put in the exercise, you got to put in the work. And I think that when people see some of these things and you're like, oh, this is investment, they start to believe that there is, and I think it's really that people don't have they don't set the proper expectations going into it. They don't have the right goals or those realistic goals, I guess, set in their mind.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think anytime you're looking to achieve something, you need to be setting goals. They can be aspirational,
yeah,
but you need to have some data inputs of how you're going to get there, right? With my bike race this weekend, I did a longer ride. I felt really good. I felt like all this work that I've been doing for months finally was starting to pay off. But if I would have done one hard workout and then felt as if I couldn't ride 100 miles in the mountain, I'd probably give up, right? But it's that consistent planning and doing some research around building that plan that's important. I mean, I think we need to have basic saving principles, right, Pete?
Yeah. I mean, if you're setting money aside, we like to look at really a healthy number is about 10 to 15% of your income. If you can afford to set that aside, without sacrificing important things like health, food, it's that's really something that is that's a good place to start as far as hey, how much should I save? What's a good number? And then I think it's what do you expect from that savings as well. If I'm putting money under the mattress, I understand that dollar is going to be a dollar forever. But if I'm putting in a bank account that's FDIC insured type of thing, I know that interest rate's probably going to be like, maybe 1% if it's liquid. Right now, I mean, gosh, we have some great interest rates, some options that you can get up and over, 5%, but that's a short-term, number. But, just having those proper expectations with something that's in our pocket, with something that's guaranteed, and then what we expect from those things that we have to take a risk with, with those other longer-term investments. So I think anytime whenever I see an investment and somebody says, hey, this is going to give you 100% return, that starts to throw up little red flags for me.
Pete, to me, the red flag goes up long before 100%.
That's true. That's true. That is true.
To get into scientific terms, Wendy, the squiggly line going up and to the right in the U.S. market, depending over the time period, in most cases is somewhere between 8 and 10%. Right? So if people are saying, oh, I'm regularly earning 15, 16, 20%, either you're really beating out a lot of people that get paid way too much money to underperform, which I guess could be the case, or there's probably something else going on.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, those are those realistic returns that, like you said, I exaggerated a bit with the 100, I admit. But, if somebody's telling you is that, we're getting, 15% return, 20% return. I mean, I think if you have the proper expectation set, you should look at them with some concern because, one, like we talked about, it's not really a long-term realistic number. And two, for the most case, usually people aren't sticking out their neck that far. So, if that we're talking about, that's the total return on the market. Most of the time, you got to be willing to stomach all those, the swiggly line up and down that whole time, so if you have a proper plan in place, your return that you need might be well underneath that 15%. It might be closer to 6-7% that you actually need to maintain, to get your goal, to meet your goal in retirement.
Yeah, I think certainly you can own individual stocks that can return quite well for periods of time, right? Like we think of a company like Netflix over the last 10 years, they've averaged about 28%. But that squiggly line is like the EKG. I mean, that's really bouncing up and down. That is not a sustainable, it's not average, it's an average, it's not an annual return of 28%, right? So years ago, I was at a Morningstar conference and they had a graphic up that was to get these Netflix returns, you would have had to sustain something like 5 or 6 times of 80% losses of your portfolio. Okay, so most people don't want to do that, right? You're going to abandon. So for us as advisors, we'd say that's really not a sustainable plan, right? We need to be, more diversified. If something happened to Netflix and they went out of business or one of these alternative streaming services took over their market share, that would not be a good thing for your whole retirement, right? We would call that a stress test for your portfolio, right? What's the worst case scenario?
Absolutely. And that's the thing is if it has that potential to go up that much, guess what? There's that whole equal and opposite force, right? The little Newton's law that, it's got to have that potential to most likely go down by that much too.
Yeah, I think, and sometimes that sort of outsized gain in the short term can make people feel emotionally attached to a stock as well, right? They might be overly attached to Netflix. Well, it's just done so well. I've been with it. I don't want to sell off some of it while it's up really high and diversify further. I want to stay committed to it, right? Or it's down 80% and they are emotional and sell all of it at the low and never get a return on it. So we need to be prudent with our emotional decisions as well. I think sometimes this FOMO behavior causes people to buy things when they're already quite high and then sell them once they drop, a drastic amount, whether it's 80% or whatever, devastating.
Yeah, definitely. Chasing a hot trend can really throw a wrench in things. And like you said, Josh, prudent planning and having a disciplined approach to investing, just and all that. How do you get to that discipline? Getting there ahead of it. Having that plan in place. So that if somebody comes and says, "I have a hot tip for you," like, well, geez, within my portfolio, I've maintained some diversification. I have some things that I know for a fact I don't want them to do any more than 5%. They're supposed to be something that's supposed to add some ballast, a little bit of conservative part. So, that's a big piece there. It's a big piece.
Yeah, I think the saying goes, if everything's moving in the same direction, you're not diversified, right? So we think of that as being a positive if the market's going down, right? And if we have something that's not going down, but if everything's going up at the same time, well, you better be prepared for the opposite to be true.
Yes.
But that being said, even if you're properly diversified, that doesn't eliminate all risks either.
No, but can't avoid everything in this world, unfortunately.
Yep, but I think, investing, like anything that we're looking to gain on, we need some discipline and we need to stick with it over the long term. Staying disciplined and working or having resources available to you to help stay committed to that plan is pretty critical.
How do you get this discipline you speak of?
Time. It's a muscle. It's a muscle, like anything. It's something that we need to practice, right? I think I'm guilty of late night eating ice cream. I might have inherited that habit through the family, right?
Okay, blaming dad.
No, I think it might have been my mom or something. But yeah, I think it's it's that like, day's done. Let me have a treat. Well, I think we know from science that that's probably like the worst time to eat ice cream, right? It goes straight to the gut. But I'm guilty of that. Well, okay, so how do I curb that? Well, I need to find a substitute, something else to do to satisfy whatever urge that is and continue doing that, not just once, but make ice cream unavailable, right?
Okay.
So make the habit easier to do. I think in terms of retirement planning, I think just having the appropriate framework set up. We talk to people all the time and we're like, well, let's develop the plan and then we can evaluate these individual decisions, right? Like, should I convert my whole IRA to a Roth IRA? Well, that's a really broad question. I don't know, right? You don't just knock on the doctor's door and say like, hey, do I need open heart surgery? No, you need to build the framework around it. Well, once you have that framework, whether it's good health or retirement planning, you need to stick with it over time to get the positive results.
Gotcha. It's kind of like working out. When you can't just work out once, you have to keep doing it. And then that's when you're going to see the results that you would like to see.
That's it, Wendy. You're not going to win that pickleball championship by just picking up the paddle. Is it a paddle? Is that proper?
It's a paddle. Yes. Congratulations. Most people call it a racket. We don't like that. So I have to continue to work out and can't spend any money. Boy, this is going to be fun.
Well, you enjoy pickleball, right? So,
I do enjoy pickleball, yeah. But it's also expensive.
Yeah, you have to make it fun. Well, we've talked before, too, about people that don't like exercising, right? To do some sort of temptation bundling, right? So, like, hey, I really like watching this trash TV show, I'm going to do that while I'm running on a treadmill, right?
Okay, yep.
So there's ways to work around it, right?
Making a deal with yourself. I like it. I like it.
Yeah, sometimes you need help too. Sometimes a trainer helps out, you know, and I think that is, you know, sometimes the role, you know, that we help people retire confidently. And what does that do? What does that trainer provide? Accountability, right? If you show up the next week and you're just in as the same shape as you were beforehand, you know, you're the only person to blame. So, but having that, you know, that accountability helps us maintain that discipline. And I think that's, you know, that's what we really see, you know, whenever we go through the planning process, is that, hey, this is something that we're doing, and we're holding each other accountable to this. And once you have that in place and you put in all that hard work, it doesn't matter if somebody's getting, you know, 20% return, 30% or 100% return. You know that your plan's in place and you're going to be just fine, you know, with what you're doing. And like we said, what that does is it avoids you getting in at the top and selling at the bottom.
Yeah, I think it removes anxiety for a lot of us too. I mean, I think we know when things are overly good that the fall is a lot further down, right? So we get overly excited and then we're nervous about it, right? I think when we look at retirement and that next chapter of life, the point is to sort of close the door on that need for a baseline financial security. Now, for a lot of folks, they might need to work in retirement, maybe a part-time job or consulting or something, but that baseline of knowing, hey, you know what, my housing expense, my food is covered, that is a security that you certainly don't have when you first start working, you know, late teens, 20s, early 30s, and you're just scraping to get by. You know, I think that is the value of retirement. Now, we need to build to that over time. That doesn't happen 2 weeks before because you bought GameStop and AMC stock. You know, that doesn't. GameStop stock. Wow.
Yeah. It's a tough one. If you lost a boatload of money, you'd remember it better. But luckily, I know.
Props working. Yes. Okay.
It does sting, you know, but unfortunately there's a lot of people out there, and like we talked about, this is a trend in society, and oftentimes trends become normalities. I'll we could dig into my the one trend that I really don't understand and quite literally don't like is the Croc trend, but just because it's normal doesn't make just because everybody's doing it doesn't make it a good idea sometimes.
Yeah, so Pete, let's talk about that. What don't you like about Crocs? I mean, Crocs, people love Crocs.
I know it's a deep-seated, partly unrational thing, but that's a whole podcast in its own.
Well, I have to say, I don't think that it's a trend. They've been around for like 20-some years, haven't they?
I mean, the company, and they came out in 2004, was it? Yeah.
Do I know my fashion or do I know my fashion?
Oh, my gosh. And right there, it's like... like, what do you mean? Like that wooden thing they made, like in the Dutch war? Like, this is a novel shoe idea? Yeah, that's what they are. They're clogs made out of rubber.
I'm not a fan of them either, Pete.
We have one client that is a ER doctor, and she very much shared the hatred for Crocs.
Not hatred. They keep her in business.
That's true. Yeah, I guess that's it. Maybe
are people injuring themselves in them?
Yeah, they're wearing basically a shower shoe to do like sports.
Oh,
and
well,
these kids are just destroying themselves, and
yeah. See, I just tend to wear Ugg boots, so I'm good.
There you go.
Nice. Pickleball shoes. All right.
Yeah.
So don't play pickleball in Crocs.
Don't play your pickleball in the Crocs.
I'm going to be seen in Crocs. I'm with you, Pete. No, especially no socks with Crocs.
Socks with Crocs.
Oh.
It takes socks with sandals to a whole different level.
Oh, no. Okay, so let's recap, guys.
Yeah. So, Pete has worked on this wonderful article. I think it's a consistently timely topic, right? We can input whether it's Crocs, GameStop stock. Ooh, my tongue's going to be tied up after this one. Or any of these crypto trends that we've seen, whether it's buying Bored Apes or just investing too heavily into things like Bitcoin or Dogecoin, whatever else these trends are. That is not a stable investment plan. To me, those are like risk plus assets, somewhat equivalent to gambling.
You got it. Yep. And we don't like to gamble with our retirement money. And I mean, that's kind of the difference here, right? We got a well thought through and a plan that's been put in place for a while compared to gambling.
Yeah.
So I think that's it.
The latest silver bullet, right?
Mm-hmm.
I encourage listeners to take a look at Pete's article as well on Kiplinger.com. We'll link it in the show notes. So if you jump in there or search Pete's name, he wrote an article, a previous article as well that had done quite well, got lots of views, in fact. So kudos to Pete. So check that out. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, certainly subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe there as well. If you haven't checked out our YouTube page, we have lots of resources available there as well. And if you just have general questions and want to talk to Pete or I, feel free to schedule a 15-minute phone call in the show notes as well. Until next time, thanks for listening.